spectroscopy and its applications, that is electronic spectroscopy. This is an electronic spectroscopy. Now let us see the applications one by one. Applications of ultraviolet visible spectroscopy. These are the important applications of UV visible spectroscopy. First one is qualitative analysis. Second one is quantitative analysis and stereochemistry and determination of band gap. Okay, 4 important headings. With this, within this, just we are going to see the subclassification of these applications. Okay, for each one example we will be accept the dissociation of constants of acids and bases. We are having example for each subsection and main section. Okay, the main application. First one is qualitative analysis. What is meant by qualitative analysis? Whether the heteroatom is there or not. Okay, qualitatively, it will tell us the whether the element is present or absent. Okay, the element is present or absent. Qualitative analysis means whether the element, heteroatom or halogen atom, is there or not. Okay, it will tell us qualitatively whether the halogen atom is there or not, or nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur atom is there or not. Okay, and how we can use this information. So we can use this information in structural elucidation of organic compounds. What is meant by structural elucidation? If you are having an organic molecule, you are synthesizing one unknown molecule, and you want to see the structure of the synthesized molecule, we have to elucidate, we have to confirm, we have to see we have to show the evidence for the structure of organic compound for simple molecules. Okay, that is called structural elucidation. In structural elucidation, we are using this UV visible spectroscopy. And one more thing, degradation also. What is meant by degradation? Let us see important environmental problem, that is pesticides and dyes. Textile industries, they are releasing dyes into the environment, and agriculture industry, pesticides, they are releasing into the environment. If you want to treat these pesticides and fertilizers and the dyes, we are using UV visible radiation, and UV visible radiation will degrade those. Okay, the degradation can be monitored by UV visible spectroscopy. Okay, in structural elucidation, what we do, we see the bond formation. In degradation, what we see? We see the bond degradation. Okay, bond breakage and bond formation. Both the things we can. Okay, formation of bond can be seen and bond breakage can be seen. Okay, both the things can be qualitatively we can analyze with the help of UV visible spectroscopy. Let us take a simple example. One chemical reaction is we are taking benzyl alcohol, a substituted benzyl alcohol or simple benzyl alcohol. Benzyl alcohol, if you are oxidizing, it will give us benzaldehyde. Okay, C6H5CH2OH. If you are oxidizing, you will get benzaldehyde. If you further oxidize, the benzaldehyde will become benzoic acid. You see that if you record the spectrum of this benzyl alcohol, benzaldehyde and benzoic acid, they are having different UV visible spectra. Okay, the spectrum of these 3 compounds is different. By seeing this, we can by recording the product spectrum or by recording the reactant spectrum, what we can analyze whether the compound has formed or not. Okay, if you are seeing the concentration of reactant concentration will be decreasing. If concentration is decreasing, what will happen? Automatically, as per our Beer-Lambert's law, Okay, absorbance will be decreasing. For reactant, for product, what will happen? Concentration will be increasing and absorbance will be increasing. This is the simple logic what we follow to monitor the chemical reaction. Okay, we are taking a oxidation reaction. Okay, oxidation reaction, benzyl alcohol, if you are oxidizing, you will get benzaldehyde. Benzaldehyde, if you are oxidizing, you will get benzoic acid. These three things, you see, particularly benzyl alcohol is giving this dotted line spectrum, and the benzoic acid is giving a dotted, and benzyl alcohol is giving this continuous line spectrum, and the benzaldehyde is giving further dotted line spectrum, okay, which was shown in the slide. Okay, see this, these are three different U visible spectra we can see. Okay, this is a simple technique to find whether the compound has formed or not, whether the reactant is undergoing reaction or not, okay, oxidation reaction or not. Okay, this is one example, and one more example, you see, degradation of bromophenol blue. Bromophenol blue is an dye molecule which is having this structure like this. Okay, it has 3 aromatic rings, and bromine as a substituent on aromatic rings, and sulfonic group is there, OH is there. Now what will happen, this particular molecule will absorb the radiation at around 570 or 580, in that range. What will happen? We want to degrade it. For that, I am using a catalyst. Okay, the catalyst is a graphene material. Okay, in presence of graphene material, I am taking this bromophenol blue molecule, and I will apply the U visible radiation. What will happen? This dye will degrade. If it is degrading with respect to time, what happens? For 0 hours, the absorbance is high. For 2 hours, absorbance is coming down. For 4 hours, again, it is coming down. For 6 hours, again, it is coming down. For 8 hours, again, it is coming down. That means absorbance is coming down means what? The molecule is degrading. The concentration of bromophenol blue is coming down. This is an indication. That means the molecule is undergoing degradation. That is the confirmation what we get from U visible spectroscopy. See that how we are monitoring the reactions. One is bond formation we are seeing, or bond transformation or functional group transformation we are seeing, and one more is bond breakage. Just whether the molecule is degraded or not, whether it is degraded or not, we are seeing with the help of simple UV visible spectroscopy. Okay, it is a one more thing, detection of impurities. Let us see the UV visible spectrum of tetrachloromethane and ethanol. Listen, if you are recording these spectra, what will happen? They are having only sigma to sigma star and N to sigma star. They don't have any other peaks in that. CCl4 and ethanol. Suppose in CCl4 carbon disulfide is there as an impurity, and in ethanol benzene is there as an impurity, we can find out. See that how we are going to see the sulfur content in petrol, similar manner. Okay, we are seeing the amount of carbon disulfide in CCl4 and benzene in ethanol. Okay, so we are detecting the impurity. That means even we indirectly are seeing the purity of the solvents or organic compounds. This is one more advantage of UV visible spectroscopy. Just let us see, this is an UV visible spectra of ethanol. The range of the wavelength is 235 to 340. We have not given for 200 to 800 range. We have taken particularly a range. Within this range, there is no any other peaks. This is what it suggests us. It is an pure anhydrous ethanol. Okay. And in quantitative analysis, let us see one by one. See the diazepam and Valium. It is a casual name of a pharmaceutical molecule. Quantitatively, we can even estimate the amount of pharmaceutical molecules present in the samples. Let us see, this is the structure of volume, and the volume will give three peaks. One is at 238, 285, and 354. This is a standard spectrum of this molecule. And 238, based on the intensity of 235, I can quantify the molecule. That is volume, molecule, concentration, I can quantify. Okay. And this is a quantitative analysis. That means for unknown concentrations, we can see even. And moreover, iron estimation, we can do it. Iron estimation, we can do it. We can use thiocyanate compound as a ligand to this. Iron will form iron thiocyanate complex, and that will also give U visible spectra. So based on the same formula, we can estimate the amount of iron present in the unknown solution. Okay. And one more thing, in stereochemistry, UV visible spectroscopy will play an unique role. I will tell you why. What is the importance of this stereochemistry? You see this cis malic acid and transfumaric acid. They are having both the same molecular formula, but the orientation, substitution of our orientation of these carboxylic acids are on the same side in cis, the opposite side in trans. If you see the melting point and the solubility of these molecules, melting point of this cis is 139 and trans is 287. You see the drastic difference. And the structure is same and molecular formula is same, but orientation, structurally, they are different. How we could able to see this thing in U visible spectra? Okay. Solubility, you see that trans compound solubility is 7 grams and cis compound solubility is in 788 grams. Okay. And this is stable. That is the thing. This is a 7 grams only is soluble, but this is unstable, cis malic acid, and this is an solubility is varying, melting point is varying. And even we can study the isomerism, keto-enol isomerism. Carbonyl compounds will exhibit this keto-enol isomerism. This is a ketone form, this is enol form, and keto form and enol form. You see that enol will give pi to pi star transition. Here ketone will give both n to pi star and pi to pi star transition. But the intensity of these things, if you see, keto form exhibits peak at 275, but the intensity is 20, and enol form exhibits peak at 245, the intensity is at 18,000. Okay. By seeing this intensity and the lambda max value, we can say whether the compound is in keto form or compound is in enol form. That is, keto-enol isomerism can be distinguished or discriminated. Okay. Similarly, stilbene, cis stilbene and trans stilbene. You see that both are same molecular formula. The structural orientation of these benzene rings on the same side and opposite side. Stilbene cis and stilbene trans. And similarly, stilbestrol. See that cis compound is not a drug and trans compound is a drug. And if you want to distinguish this both, and UV visible spectroscopy is a simple technique to distinguish this both. Okay, that is the advantage of our UV visible spectroscopy. Okay, and cis stilbene is giving peak at 276 nanometers. Okay, at 276 nanometers, cis stilbene is giving peak. The epsilon value for this on around molar extinction coefficient, just if you are converting the our epsilon CL and A instead of A, if you are expressing in concentration, you are sending the epsilon and length on that side. That is the reason we are getting here 36 to 30 centimeter inverse per mole. Okay, this is a molar extinction coefficient. Okay, the value of the molar extinction coefficient is 36,000. and the lambda max for this cis compound is 276. Similarly, let us see for trans compound. What is the value? 294. For cis compound, 276. For trans compound, 294. Wavelength is increasing. That means energy is decreased. Why energy is decreasing? I will tell you here. Trans compound delocalization of electrons will be easy. See that how it will be delocalizing? The delocalization of electrons from benzene ring to double bond and double bond to benzene ring. Since it is an easy, okay, it is in transposition, that is the thing. And if you come to this cis, it is like a U-turn. Okay, it is very difficult. Delocalization means movement of electrons. Movement of electron is deciding this. That's it. See that it is as we have discussed in our first class. Electron is deciding the physical and chemical properties. Now you see how it is deciding. Cis electron movement is difficult because it is like a U-turn. It is very difficult. That is the reason 276 nanometers. Okay. Wavelength is higher. You see, just wavelength is lower in this case. For cis compound, wavelength is lower. That means energy is higher. It requires higher energy because of this U-turn. Here in trans, wavelength is higher, energy is lower. Why energy is lower? There is no any steric hindrance here. That means electrons can move freely in trans. That is the reason always trans compounds will have higher thermal stability and as well as this even magnetic stability. See that the trans compound and cis compound, how it is, though they are having same molecular formula, this geometrically they are different, but the physically they are different even with respect to melting point and other properties. And what is the reason? Electrons are deciding. How electrons are deciding? Movement of electron. Movement of electron from this benzene ring to that benzene ring. If electrons are traveling, what will happen? In trans compound, there is no restriction. You can go easily. Okay, it is a trans. And if it is a cis, electron should take an U-turn. That is the reason. That means it is an steric hindrance. The hindrance will be there here. In between these two benzene rings, hindrance will be there. Electrons should turn. Okay, that is the difficulty. That is the reason it requires higher energy. Cis compounds requires higher energy and lower wavelength. And trans compound requires lesser energy, higher wavelength. That is the thing. Okay. This is about discrimination or distinguish between cis and trans steel beams. Okay. If you want to discriminate cis compound from trans compound, UV is the best. And one more thing, just you see that azobenzene. Azobenzene is an which is having a benzene rings on both sides, and in between they are connected by nitrogen, and both sides substituent at para positions. One side is an methoxy and one side is an butyl. Okay, N-butyl 4-methoxy azobenzene. Instead of that, we are writing BMAB. Okay, butyl methoxy azobenzene, BMAB. Cis and trans. See the UV visible spectrum of cis compound and trans compound. Cis compound is giving two things, two peaks, but trans compound is giving two peaks with higher intensity, just the value is different. The lambda value is different. Okay, the lambda values are different. Okay, this is what how we will distinguish the cis and trans isomers from UV visible spectroscopy. And similarly, NAD molecule biologically it is an active molecule. Though for looking this molecule is very complicated, you see that it is giving simple UV visible spectra. This compound is giving a peak at 260 nanometers. 260 nanometers. What will happen if you are reducing this molecule? Okay, a ATP to ADP conversion, all are electron transfer reactions we have discussed in our first class itself. Simple electron transfer, oxidation, reduction reactions. Now, simple reduction, because of the reduction, what will happen at this point? alpha to this amide. Hydrogen is there, this carbon will be reduced to this unsaturation will become saturation, sp2 will become sp3. Now that time it will become NADH. Now once if you reduce the molecule to NADH, this is the reaction. You see that clearly where the reaction is happening. Arrow is the red color arrow. This carbon is reduced to this. That means this carbon has taken two hydrogens from the medium. The medium might be anything, just acid or H plus. Okay. Just NAD plus is becoming NADH. This is a reduction reaction. This, for looking, this is a complicated thing. By using UV visible spectroscopy, how we are identifying, just you see that the red color one is oxidized, a blue color one is reduced. Blue color one is giving an extra peak at around 345, 342 nanometer. By seeing this, NAD molecule as reduced or oxidized, we can find out. See that simply oxidation and reduction reactions, we are seeing it in UV visible spectroscopy. And not only this, even photoisomerization reactions. This azobenzene molecule in presence of UV light, it is becoming cis-azobenzene. If you are giving visible light, what happens? This cis-azobenzene is becoming trans-azobenzene. In presence of UV, it is becoming cis. In presence of visible, it is becoming trans. This is called photoisomerization. Isomerization means geometrically isomers, they will be interconverting each other by sending and radiation. What radiation we are sending for trans to cis? UV. Cis to trans? Visible. Just if you are sending UV, it is becoming cis. If you are sending visible, it is becoming trans. This type of reactions are called photoisomerization reactions. Okay, even photochemical reactions can be seen by, and even we can monitor these photoisomerization reactions by using UV visible spectroscopy. And sterically hindered dienes, 1,3-butadiene. See that 1,3-butadiene is giving a peak, or it is absorbing energy at 217. Instead of hydrogens, if you are keeping methyl, it is giving absorbance at, it is absorbing peak at 225. And if you are substituting this methyl group, if you are substituting this methyl group by tertiary butyl group, if you are substituting this methyl group by tertiary butyl group, what will happen? The wavelength is still decreased. From 217 to 225, it increases, again it decreases because of sterically hindered. As we have discussed earlier, electron delocalization. What is meant by delocalization? Localization means settled in one place. Delocalization means it will be moving always. These electrons are delocalizing from one double bond to another double bond. This delocalization is difficult in this because of this tertiary butyl group. Okay, that is the reason wavelength is decreasing here. That is the reason wavelength is decreasing. Wavelength is decreasing means what? It requires higher energy. The reason is sterically hindered. This is called sterically hindered because of the stereochemistry of this molecule. This is happening. Okay, and even by applying Woodward-Fisher rules, we can find out the absorption maxima for molecules. Directly we can say the values of this, and even for complicated molecules, so we can find out. And DNA denaturation can be identified. And what is meant by denaturation? Just I will give you a simple example. Denaturation means just you are keeping an omelette. Okay, you are denaturizing the egg. Okay, that is what denaturization. Similarly, our DNA denaturization can be distinguished or identified by UV visible spectra. Double helical DNA denaturization can be identified by UV visible spectra by identifying the temperature where it will be melting, or the TM can be identified. This is a double helical or double stranded DNA molecule. This is blue color. Black color is single stranded DNA molecule. Even denaturation can be identified by UV visible spectra. And for inorganic materials, for powder materials, we can find out even band gap. We know what is the band gap. The band gap is the distance between valence band and conduction band. That can be identified, or it can be determined by UV visible spectroscopy. Let us see how we can. For zinc oxide material, whether it is nanomaterial or bulk material, don't worry. And we are recording the spectrum of zinc oxide. You see that? So now we are writing a tangent line to the heads of this peak, that is at this. What is the value here? Intersecting point is around 386 nanometers. We are dividing 1240 nanometers or electron volts with 386 nanometers. Directly we will get the band gap. Okay. And similarly for cadmium sulfide band gap we are getting, and for zinc oxide band gap. How we are defining the band gap? Band gap is nothing but a transition between, according to this definition, according to this spectra, how we are defining a transition between strong short wavelength and the weak long wavelength. See that which one is a strong short wavelength? This is the strong short wavelength, and higher weak long wavelength. Long wavelength means higher wavelength. This is a weak, yes, weak and strong intersecting point we are identifying, and we are dividing with 1240 electron volts. And if you are dividing directly, we get the band gap of a powder material. Okay. Even solid state UV visible spectroscopy is there. Without the solubilization, we can record the UV visible spectra even for solid samples. If you are going to find the band gap directly, we can do this. Okay. This is called solid state UV visible spectroscopy. Okay. These are the applications of UV visible spectroscopy.